Hello and welcome back to Dicebreaker, where today we played Cosmic Frog. Although today
Yeehaw!
we didn't play Cosmic Frog, we actually played it some time ago at PAX East. And since then, things have changed.
A lot has happened.
So instead, we're talking about it online. But Cosmic Frog is a game we played a prototype version of at PAX East in the first look area, and it is basically a game in which everyone is an absolutely massive cosmic frog, and you go around. The idea is you go around eating planets in order to harvest their terrain types, and they go into your gullet, and then you can swallow them, and they go in. Well, no, actually, you don't swallow them. You put them all in your gullet, and then you scurry off to a thing called your vault, which is like your little house that you're building for yourself. And you throw up bits of these planets. You disgorge them in order to make like the perfect home for yourself. But it's not that straightforward. There are many dangers, mostly other frogs, because other players, they want to build a better home than you, and they want to stop you from getting terrain yourself. So it's kind of this. I mean, the board is basically it's this. We were playing this massive neoprene mat with a bunch of hexes. Some of them were just like blank. Some of them had stacks of terrain on them, like mountains and sort of grasslands. And then if tiles got removed, then it would punch through to the ether, which is just the void around all of these planets. And so on your go, you can hop around all of these places, but you can also fight other frogs in order to make them throw up the planets they've eaten so you can steal them for yourself. It's basically like a game where it's kind of, like how like Godzilla is often fighting other massive monsters.
Yeah.
It's like that, but you're reaching down other people's throats to steal their stuff.
I'm entirely convinced that this game only exists so that they can laugh at people trying to explain it. Like it's completely preposterous, the theme. And it's got this very like it's got a cosmic theming, but the art style from what we saw, because obviously we were playing with placeholder prototype stuff.
Yeah.
But like the cards were very much the final art, and it's super like psychedelic.
Yeah.
It's got this like I don't know, like 1970s uni student like magic eye posters on his wall vibe to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's quite sort of like it's not a deeply tactical game, I would say. There's definitely enough systems that you can be quite clever with it, but also there's a lot of fun luck and dice throwing and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very like you're right. The aesthetic is very like acid wave kind of stuff, which I think is gorgeous. But yeah, you're right. It's not too tactical because like I hope I'm remembering this right. I think Lolies you might remember. I don't know, but each frog has like 3 different stats, and is it like colors for dice? The different dice you roll.
God, yeah, I can't really remember.
I think it was like
there was one like for fighting in the ether, one for
fighting on land.
Yeah. And what was the third one?
There was a third one, wasn't there?
Oh, the third one was for stealing from other people's vaults.
That's it. Oh yeah, for raid actions.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's it, because so fighting on the board, if you win a combat, you knock back your opponent. And whatever tile they land on is destroyed. Because kind of, again, like Godzilla fighting Mothra, you're throwing them into a building, which is just, it's really funny. It gives you a really big sense of scale. But if they land on a blank tile and smash that, they drop through into the ether. However, if you win a combat in the ether, you knock the frog into a different dimension. And depending on how hard the knockback is, you can go to like a dimension 6 dimensions over, and then you have to come back. But then when you come back, you can come back stronger, which is, my God, how the turn system works. We haven't even covered this. I think it's
it's
absolutely
like Cosmic
brilliant.
Encounter.
Yeah. How is it similar? Because again, for my sins, I've never played Cosmic Encounter.
So it's like you get a deck of cards which has every player color in it a few times over, and you literally just draw the top card and it'll show you a player color. So I think Wheels was playing yellow, I was playing red. What color were you?
I was green.
you're green. And so it would just, you flip over a card and it might be red, and then it's my turn. We flip over the next card, maybe it's red again. So actually I get 2 turns in a row, but you don't know that until you draw the next card. So somebody might get a few turns in a row, or it might just come out that like it literally just comes up like you, me, you, Wheels, whoever. And so yeah, it's a bit like random. You don't really know how many turns you're gonna get. But then when you're in that outer
Like in
dimension
other dimensions,
place,
yeah.
you get to, every time it's your turn and you're out there, you move, like you roll a dice and you move that many spaces, like that many dimensions kind of back towards this land that we're all occupying. And for each turn that you miss, you get that card. And then when you get out of that dimension back into where everyone else is, you get to take like however many turns that you kind of missed along the way, all in one go. So it's like all of a sudden you're like, bam, I'm here, guys.
Yeah.
I'm here to mess things up.
Like they've loaded up this massive frog into a trebuchet and just launched him into space.
But it really gave a good sense of momentum, because I got knocked quite far out fairly early on.
Yeah, by me.
Not only did I get to change my frog type, and I came back with one that was way stronger at fighting, but I came back with like 3 goes on the trot, and I was just like, right, here we go. So then I was able to swallow a bunch of stuff, raid. It was brilliant. Like I think it's really smart. I also, to be honest with you, I quite like the scoring method, because when you've got your vault, which is where you throw up the worlds you've consumed, you place them in hexes, and then when you're scoring it, because these tiles can stack up into layers of 3, I think it is.
It's like sandwiches.
You look at it top down and you score that level. So if, say for example, you've got, because tiles have 2 different thicknesses. If you've got a tile of a big thickness, but it's got 2 tiles underneath, but you've got a big thick tile that's just flat on the board, you would score those as being next to each other and get some bonus points. And then you take the top one off and take that one that was on the bottom off as well, if that makes sense. So that you're peeling it away. I've not explained this very well. I'm doing a lot of hand gestures.
To quote 2001 Shrek, it's like an onion. It has layers.
Yes.
So you're literally like peeling the top layer off, whatever you can see if you were to have a bird's eye view of it.
Yeah.
And then you score everything underneath, which means that you needed to sort of think quite far ahead, because you have to build on top of each other. So if you've like set yourself up with a really good scoring round, it'll only work if it stays in that exact shape. Because if you start putting things on top of it, or if you're sort of relying on something being underneath, then suddenly it's sort of all stripped away in the wrong order.
Yeah, but it was a really fun sort of puzzle, and you don't get all that many opportunities to interact with it unless you really gun for it, because you're spending so much of your other time hopping around, kicking another frog into a planet, or into the ether or whatever. So you've got to be smart about your placement, but you also don't have that many opportunities to place. It's kind of, what it made me think of was that it was absolutely nothing like Tapestry. Because, you think about Tapestry, and I know we talked about this a lot in the review, those massive buildings that you place down, and that's kind of like puzzle-esque, but all you're doing is filling up space to earn a little thing. Whereas with this, you can try and specialize on one terrain type, or you can mix and match, and you can just generally try and build up your scoring potential. And it was super satisfying. Like,
they would really benefit from, like, they'd reward you for building in certain ways as well. So they had these things called, I think they were like fonts or something like that, but basically like energy sources. So if you managed to get like that perfect ice cream sandwich of like thin layer, thick layer, thin layer, and I think they had to be in the same color as well, then they would just sort of like generate like points for you to use, so you can basically spend on things. So you have like this resource called oomph, which is is represented by like an ohm sign, and it's essentially literally like a sort of resource that you can use in addition to your turns. So when you draw a card, you just get to do one action, but then you can spend oomph to do a few more things at once if it's really important to you, because you don't know when your next turn's going to come up.
Exactly, yeah. And well, each frog, and there's a good sized deck of different frog cards, because you will end up going through them. If you ever get punted out of the ether, you have to take a new frog. I got one that for oomph could knock people back further, which was great. So it was like, okay, I'm really coming for you now. Like, I'm really gonna try and do this. And I think the same frog was better at raiding, which is like had a specific action to help raid, which is just it's really fun to have these different things. And that was it. Towards the end of the game, I had a frog who could. God, the more we talk about this, the more mechanics we sort of discover. There are lots of moving parts in this game, but the core is very simple, so it's quite quick to pick up. But I had a frog who could eat bits of blank terrain, which normally you can't do, in order to cause a shard strike. And a shard strike is a thing where basically you draw a card and it gives you an area where basically a meteor is struck, destroying that planet and a certain number of hexes around it. And when you take off the blank hexes, you turn them over, and if they've got a strike symbol, it goes on a tracker, and when that tracker fills up, the game will end. So I was in quite a controlling position, and I was just like, I'm going to try and end this. And I started eating as much of like the universe as I possibly could to try and speed things up. Also getting hit by a shard strike, needless to say, is catastrophically bad.
Annihilate you, yeah.
But it's just, again, like I think when we sat down, it seemed quite intimidating because, as we've said, there was quite a lot there, and luckily we did have our favourite PAX enforcer happened to be there and was able to teach us very swiftly in a very straightforward manner. But once you've kind of got your head around what each little bit does and why you want to interact with it, I think it's actually really simple. Like we got through the game relatively quickly, partly because I was trying to speed it up, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it's like. I guess it's kind of like a game with lots of iconography. Like it's a little bit of a pain to get through at first, but once you pick it up, you're absolutely flying.
It does kind of remind me a little bit of Cosmic Encounter. It's got a very similar feel. It's got a similar-ish design, but it feels like a more kind of chaotic, like silly version of it. Yeah. And I think like for a lot of people who love Cosmic Encounter, like this would be a great kind of like other game that's kind of similar, but like. It's kind of got that similar kind of it seems really complicated at first with like Cosmic Encounter. You've got like loads of roles that interact differently with each other, but it is that kind of thing that once you start playing, it's actually it does kind of thematically make sense, even though the theme is quite like out there.
I'm in love with the theme. But
it's kind of wild to describe something as more wacky than Cosmic Encounter. Because the whole point of Cosmic is that it's a war game where it is intentionally unbalanced because you've basically got like everyone has their own special power and they can be super strong, but you're only as strong as how strong people think you are because they'll gang up on you, etc., etc.
Yeah,
you've got a similar thing in this game, but there's also like a fun sort of ever-changing atmosphere to it because like you might be trying to walk across the plains to try and smash someone and then a meteor strikes and suddenly you're stranded on 2 different islands.
Yeah.
Or you might get hit with like cosmic radiation, which forces everyone to change their card.
Oh, yeah.
So suddenly you don't even have the same power anymore.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep the power that you already have, you have to spend oomph to keep it on.
That's it.
And if you get booted into the outer dimensions, then when you come back, you've changed because you've been exposed to other ways of living or you've gone on a gap year. But like it's like there's never there's never like
I just got back from Dimension 3 and oh my god, I'm never going to be the same.
You just wouldn't understand how they live out there. It's crazy. But yeah, so but you like what's really quite sort of charming about it is that like you never really know what state the board's going to be in when it comes back around to you. And there's also like it sort of revels in the randomness because there was a moment where I was just drawing my own color every single time. It's like, well, I get 5 turns now, but then like as soon as you spent all your cards, like it's a deck, right? So like I was just like, okay, I guess I'm not going to have a turn for the next 20 minutes.
You absolutely started on a tear because you had so many consecutive goes, and then by the end of that, you were looking pretty beat up because Loli's and I were like, right, well. Let's get back at this dude. So,
yeah, you smashed you into little bits now.
But all in all, I think it's wonderful. Like we played a lot of good stuff at PAX East this year, but I think in terms of games I'm currently looking forward to, it's gone straight in at number. I think it's my second most anticipated game at the minute because I really want to play 4 again because that was delightful.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I am in love with Cosmic Frog, and I want it. I want it in my life.
When we played Cosmic Frog, I felt very much like there was like a group of people, or maybe like one individual. I don't know how many people came up with this game, but whoever came up with this game sat down and was like, what could I make for Alex Slowly's? It just like feels like it was made for me, like in every way. Like it's manic, it's chaotic, it's got frogs and space, and I just get to like mess with people and beat people up and destroy things. It was like I can't wait for it to come out.
That's a good point to mention. Actually, we should probably say that like this game will allow your friends to be a complete dick to you. Like,
oh yeah,
you can absolutely target people and make their life a living hell.
Yeah.
So like, if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to be ganged up on, and is also the kind of person that often gets ganged up on, then like it can be quite frustrating. I think like I didn't find myself frustrated because we were just having a steady time, and like, the randomness allowed you to sort of negate a lot of like ganging up. But if you are that kind of player who doesn't like the sort of dogpiling mechanics and a lot of sort of like Ameritrash kind of games where it's a bit more, I just don't like you, so I'm just going to hit you. Like that, I can imagine people would get frustrated by that.
Yeah, true. It is. Yeah, it's probably not for everyone, but oh my goodness, it's certainly for me and Loli's. But anyway, I think that probably just about does it. So thanks so much for joining me here on the internet, you two, and indeed you who are watching this at home. That was us talking about Cosmic Frog. There's loads of other stuff you can watch from Dicebreaker, including a today we played on Fort, which we just mentioned, which is so good. So yeah, there should be some videos on screen now. Do like, subscribe, make sure you don't miss anything else from Dicebreaker, and we'll see you soon.
Woo, dog it.